Hi, I'm Meg. Welcome to plantfitmeg. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're digging into what I wish I knew before I started my weight loss journey. And I do have a couple of similar videos to this that I filmed quite a few years ago, and I'll link them in the description box below in case you want to go check them out. But I thought it'd be a great opportunity to do a little update and share what my thoughts are now and discuss other things that I really wish I had known prior to my weight loss journey. If you're unfamiliar with me and my channel, I lost 80 pounds using a plant-based diet and a healthy lifestyle, and basically just overhauling my lifestyle and changing everything, making sure that I was eating a really healthful, nourishing diet, getting great sleep, managing stress, all these different components of health, getting my body moving. And prior to that, I had tried to lose weight many, many times with varying degrees of success. And I thought that that would be my last weight loss journey and I would be done and that would be the end of it. And to a certain extent, that's true. I have kept most of the weight off. However, after having some health issues last year and having to have surgery and being away from the gym for a year, I did gain a little bit of weight, a little bit of fat, probably lost some muscle there. So I am back in a fat loss mode at this point and am looking to potentially compete in bodybuilding at some point in the future. The things I'm going to share today are things that I really wish I had known before I started my weight loss journey. They're things I sort of learned as part of the process and throughout, and I really wish I could give my past self this information. It would have made the whole thing a lot easier to get through. So I hope you find this video helpful. Remember to give it a like and subscribe if you do enjoy and want to see more from me. With that said, let's jump right in. First thing is that food is not the enemy. I used to really see food as my downfall, and it was really impossible to lose weight because I loved food so much, and I just kind of looked at food as my nemesis and as the problem. But the truth is, obviously, you need to eat. We need to eat something to get by and to make our bodies function and to work, and we can't be so restrictive that we're just existing on nothing. So food overall is not the issue. The issues come in when there's overconsumption, when you're eating foods that just aren't as healthful or as nourishing all of the time. Basically, if my situation was I was eating a lot of processed foods quite regularly, quite often, and just not cooking at home as much as I could have and should have been for my goals. So the issue is not food overall, food in and of itself, it's what you're eating and how much of it you're eating and how often you're consuming these different items. And I really see food on a spectrum. I don't see it as like a black and white, good and bad kind of a situation. I think depending on your goals, you can eat in different ways and make it work. And there are many ways to achieve weight loss and get there in a healthy way with slightly different diets and different approaches. In the past, I really went pretty all in a whole food plant-based diet, which is basically a whole plant food diet. So eating a lot of vegetables, fruit, beans, legumes, whole grains, a little bit of nuts and seeds sprinkled in there, along with minimally processed items like plant milks, tofu, tempeh, that kind of thing. Some tips around food are to load up your plate, half of your plate with veggies and or fruit, and then the other half making a combination of a starchy vegetable or a whole grain alongside a lean protein source. I'll put up a plate here so that you can see what I'm talking about, but the more that you can befriend food and find healthful foods that you really enjoy and stick with it so that your taste buds readjust and you start to really enjoy those foods and flavor things in really delicious ways with spices and seasonings and sauces and dressings. Food can be your friend. It can be a great tool, it can be delicious and enjoyable, even while you're trying to lose weight. Another thing I really wish I knew before I got started was that my body is not the enemy. So as much as I thought food was kind of the enemy, I also thought my own body was a problem and my own body didn't function like other people's bodies. And I was under this misconception that I was broken or there was something wrong with me, that it was impossible to lose weight and that it was possible for other people for various reasons. But for myself, I felt like my body just wasn't allowing it to happen and wasn't allowing me to be successful and stay successful and to have a sustainable weight loss. And the truth is, my body is not broken. Your body is not broken unless you have a very particular medical condition, perhaps, that puts you in a very rare percentage of people that will have a much more difficult time losing weight. You're not broken. You just need to learn the tools and the tips and tricks to make your weight loss happen in a healthy, sustainable way that you can maintain and that you can continue to carry forward with as you lose the weight and as you go into maintenance mode. The math needs to math. So whether you're counting calories or not, the calories still add up and they still count. So know that the problem is not with you. The problem is maybe overeating. Maybe it's snacking a lot and just not realizing how many calories you're consuming. You might be eating something really healthful, but not realize how calorie dense it is. So learning a bit more about food, learning about nutrition, and trying to just keep it really simple and experiment with yourself a little bit to find out what works well for you, how you feel your best, and how you can make progress with your weight loss and still feel great, feel energetic, and keep the process as enjoyable as possible. And that leads me into my next point, which is about the scale. The scale is a great tool. It can be very useful, but it is not the be-all, end-all with your weight loss. You may be sitting there thinking, well, if I want to lose weight, I need to track it. I need to weigh myself. I need to use the number on the scale as an indicator of my progress. And the scale can be a really helpful tool. I use the scale. I don't have a problem with weighing myself or with my clients weighing themselves. However, I would argue that it is only one tool of measurement and it only provides one data point. And so it is really important to broaden the scope and look at other factors and other things that are going well and improving as you go through the process. So things like paying attention to your energy levels and how you feel, and progress with exercise or fitness in terms of flexibility, strength, stamina, any kind of factor there. If you're increasing your speed or your endurance, those are great indications and good things to pay attention to as well. Measuring yourself with a tape measure to check in on your progress periodically, taking progress photos so you can see from photo to photo to photo and kind of compare side by side, because as you're going through the process, I know for me, sometimes it was hard to really recognize the progress I was making until I saw photos side by side, and then I could see, oh, okay, clearly there is quite a bit of difference from, this month to that month. So use the scale if it is a helpful tool for you, and if it's not something that's a mood indicator and that stresses you out, use it. It's great. It's one data point. And at the same time, pay attention to those non-scale victories as well. Pay attention to how you feel, pay attention to how your clothing fits, and note your progress in other ways as well and celebrate that too. Another thing I wish I knew, and I sort of knew this one, but to be in it is a lot different than just knowing in theory that it's true, and it is to have patience. It takes time to lose weight. And if you're really focused and really on plan and on target, you can make amazing progress. You can make great progress. However, if you are at a smaller starting weight, it can be a lot slower than if you're at a higher starting weight. So that's kind of what I'm dealing with now at this point in this current fat loss phase. In my previous one, things did move fairly quickly because I was going from a really highly processed diet, a standard American diet situation, to a whole food plant-based diet. And so now where I am currently, I'm not looking to lose like a dramatic, tons and tons of weight. It's more of a body composition change. It's a fat loss situation more so than weight loss, and trying to maintain my strength at the same time. So I need to be patient. I need to take my time and continue to do the things that will get me to where I want to go. At this point, I am tracking my calories and my macros, which in the past I haven't done. Like I mentioned earlier, there are different ways to achieve the goal and different ways to get where you want to go. And depending on what your goal is and what your starting point is, there are different strategies. And in the past, I thought calorie counting was really too much for my brain. I couldn't handle it. It was just tracking felt like not fun, not good. But now my mindset has shifted such that it's fun for me to sort of track and see and kind of play around with. And I have a flexible approach too. I'm not on a meal plan or anything like that. And that's working well for me at this point. And so being patient and knowing that progress will happen if you just stay consistent and keep going. In previous times when I tried to lose weight, there was that frustration that progress wasn't happening fast enough or it wasn't working is sort of what I would chalk it up to. So whatever plan I was trying in the moment is like, throw my hands up in the air, it's not working. And it wasn't so much that it wasn't working, it was just that I needed to continue with that consistency and continue to follow the plan, maybe refine and make little tweaks and make improvements along the way to get things moving. But I needed to continue with that consistency in order to see the progress. If you don't change anything or if you don't change much, your degree of change is going to line up with what results you see oftentimes. So if you're making teeny tiny like little changes, or you're trying to make sweeping changes but then you can't keep up with it, so it turns into a bit of a schmoz, then you're not going to see the progress that you want to see, rather than a slow and steady consistent situation. And oftentimes making one small change can make a really big difference, especially if your starting weight is a little bit on the higher end. Things like paying attention to liquid calories, or really paying attention to restaurant meals and what that looks like, and maybe avoiding them for a time period or minimizing them for a while can be really helpful. But continuing to be patient, trust the process, and keep going. Don't give up. And another thing I wish I knew is that two things can be true at once. I can love my body and I can also want to change it at the same time. In previous weight loss efforts and weight loss situations, I really got into modes where I really strongly disliked my body. I would say that I hated it in certain moments. And I tried to hate myself into a smaller body and into doing the things necessary to get me into a smaller body. And that, honestly, that approach just never worked for me. And you see a lot of this kind of situation, this kind of talk online, especially now, where it looks like body image and sort of the beauty standards are sort of shifting again, and we're getting back into the beauty standards of sort of the 90s and early 2000s, where thin was in. And so now we have things like skinny talk and influencers saying really horrible things about anybody who is in a larger body. And I think that approach just doesn't work. And at its core, it's not helpful. So if you can find love and appreciation for your body, or feel neutral about it. Like, this is just the meat suit that I walk around in. It allows me to go about my business, do my work, spend time with my family, go about my day, and I don't need to feel any particular way about it. And I know that sounds so simplistic and so difficult to achieve if you're really hating on yourself and hating on your body, but it is so important to practice that self-love and that self-acceptance and that body positivity or body neutrality, where you can really just focus on what your body does for you and not be as focused on the aesthetic component. And that being said, you can still have aesthetic goals and love yourself through it. I used to think it was a very like black and white sort of thing. It's like either I love myself and I stay the same, or I hate myself and I change. And it was really so refreshing and so lovely to find out through my weight loss process that I could have love for myself and love for my body, and at the same time want to make positive changes and show that love to myself through making healthier choices and moving my body and eating foods that would nourish me, and bringing these two concepts together where it was I could really love and appreciate myself or feel fairly neutral about my body, and also just want to make changes for health reasons and for aesthetic reasons too. And it takes time, it takes practice, it takes a lot of noticing when those thoughts come into your head that are really negative and sort of flipping the script, questioning them, reframing them, and asking, is this true? I use the acronym THINK all the time, and I'm not sure if I've mentioned this in a video before, but it's actually something I learned in yoga teacher training, and it was meant to be a way to explain how you communicate to your group that you're teaching, the people that you're guiding through a yoga practice. And the acronym is THINK. And I took that and I sort of flipped that and took it to mean how I speak to myself and how, not just how I communicate with other people, but how I talk to myself, think about myself. And I found it to be a really helpful tool. So the acronym is THINK, and you ask the question when you have a negative thought: is this true? Is this helpful? Is it inspiring? Is it necessary? And is it kind? And 9 times out of 10, usually 10 times out of 10, but let's say 9 just for argument's sake, vast majority of the time, none of those things. It won't be any of those things when you have a negative thought. It won't be true, helpful, inspiring, necessary, or kind to think about yourself in a negative light, or to be down on yourself, or to put yourself down. And so to take that and to be aware of it and then turn it around and transition it into something positive. Acknowledging the challenges and acknowledging that it's not sunshine and rainbows all the time, and it can be a challenging process. It can be hard to make change, and it can be hard to get into new routines and new habits, and at the same time knowing that it's possible, having this deep inner knowing that you're capable, that you're worthy, and that it's worthwhile to make these changes so that you can be healthier, happier, more energetic, and feel great about yourself through the process. Because if you expect to lose weight and for it to just fix all your problems, and when I'm done my weight loss, I'm just going to be happy and everything is going to be lovely and I'm going to love my body, I'm going to love myself, everything's going to be amazing. That's not really the case. It's inner work that needs to be done. And so weight loss can have an impact on your mood. It can have an impact on the way that you feel about yourself and the way that you perceive yourself. But I think it's really important to dig a little bit deeper and to look at what is going on internally and taking care of our mental health at the same time as we take care of our physical health, and really prioritizing both as equally important in the whole process. The easiest way that I found to do this beyond the THINK acronym was also to consider, how would I think about or speak to someone else who was in my exact same situation, someone else that I love and care about. So if my best friend came to me and said, hey, this is my problem, this is my struggle, this is what I'm thinking, this is what I'm dealing with, how would I respond to them? And I would be way nicer to a friend than I ever would be to myself back in the day. And so to think of it in those terms and to kind of redirect that positivity and that encouragement and all of those great things that I would provide to someone else, and redirect that to myself and show that to me, was really helpful and really important in the process of getting healthier and losing weight. So I hope you really enjoyed this video and found it helpful. If you have any tips or any things that you wish you knew before getting started on your weight loss journey, leave them in the comment section below. Let me know if you could relate to anything that I mentioned, or if you have a favorite tip that I mentioned. I appreciate you for being here. I hope you're having a great day, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!